There is no stretch of racing more chaotic on the Ignite Series schedule than last week in this, which also comes down to your first elimination race in the next level race for the championship. So far, we've seen fantastic racing wherever we've gone. Even Talladega, only 3 cautions over the course of 100 laps and 266 miles. Tonight might be the first real threat in the big picture of 26 races. We're going little once again on FTN. Welcome back to the virtual Martinsville Speedway for the Pro Powder and Paint 150. This circuit we've seen many a time before, but in championship racing, the Martinsville circuit, of course, has seen its best action on the Tuesday night tour. Tonight, major implications in the Ignite Series as we go racing once again. Race number 26 and the third and final round here in the round of 15. Welcome back live on FTN Broadcasting. I'll be your host for tonight's event, David Kreutz, commentating and producing, leading you through all of tonight's festivities. Currently, we have qualifying on the way. 1 minute and 54 seconds for what will admittedly be our shortest and smallest field of the season, and unfortunately, it's only fitting given the fact this is our shortest and smallest track. Tied with the likes of Bristol Motor Speedway, Martinsville is minute when it comes to its scale, and right now, 20-plus drivers have registered, and 18 of which they have given their times, but so far, it's going to be some of those part-timers you got to look out for. Tom Wetmore coming back after a very successful inaugural FTF Grand National campaign. Great to see him back in the Integrity Ignite Series for 2 races a week, now alongside the Octane Series. Currently, Tom's going to find himself all the way at the back of the board, and he's looking for his one and only validated lap to be the one that takes him right up to the top. Let's see now what he can do. First lap was a 25.585, so 4 seconds at the minimum off the pace, and as Wetmore comes loose across the line, it'll be better, but nowhere near enough. Wetmore going to jump up into the middle of the charts. That's going to be good for 17th for Tom Wetmore, and all 20 drivers that are here tonight looking to race have taken times, the last of which is Boomer Logan, who will be your off-track administrator for tonight, and Braxton Deweese comes across the line. Braxton currently finds himself in third, 66 1/1000ths of a second off the top spot and firmly locked in for what's next, that of course being the round of 10. Braxton Deweese now, 15 seconds remaining. As it stands, it looks like he's going to be bringing it down into pit road. Then you got Tom Wetmore here, Tube Tech, Toyota Supra, not a Chevrolet. And instead, it looks like it's going to be bringing him up into 17th at the most. All 20 drivers have taken a time for tonight's event, and a familiar face back to the front of the field. 1-2 for JTM, and it'll be Matthew Thunhorst with the pole position by 25 thousandths of a second. Checkered flag is going to fly on qualifying, and so now we have 5 extra minutes of a little bit more practice for these drivers to get settled in here in Martinsville. We've had a lot of time so far with more than an hour of initial practice, and I think every driver is very comfortable now with the expectations of what's at hand here. For some drivers, this is a win or go home event. Others, not so much. Notably, Brad Patton going to be pulling out of the remainder of the championship race and full-time competition for the final 5 races, citing personal reasons outside of the sim, and scheduling, of course, becomes tricky for a championship if you're not able to make every race. So with that being said, 4 other drivers will go home tonight without a chance at the championship. It all depends on who those drivers will be. So with that being said, your starting lineup still composed of some of the championship favorites, and right at the front of the field, 2 of them, the 8 and the 9, go 1 and 2. Matthew Thunhorst grabs the provisional pole position, 19.352 inside of row 1 in that number 8, and right beside him, Justin Morton going to be in second, 19.377, finding himself right there on the outside pole. You're going to have third place in Braxton Deweese, 19.418 inside of row number 2, and he's going to be there in third with Michael Stroll fourth, Don Stevenson in fifth, and Rob Ackley position number 6. Top 6 drivers, of course, going to be spread out by give or take a 10th of a second. Blake Gordon is going to be 7th, and Brandon Bernhardt is in 8th. Gordon and Bernhardt alike right alongside each other. brother, the 19 tonight, with a chance to hang on. But of course, what we saw from him, collecting victory at long last, he's going to be comfortable to look forward to the future, while Brandon Bernhardt maybe looking to be a little bit of a racing ringer at these short tracks and take away from the championship contenders. Not a road course tonight, but still a chance to surprise. Nick Tarbuck in P9 and Vinny Tigner, who's coming from that final seat in the top 15, looking to continue to upset the field and make his way in as perhaps one of the darkest of dark horses in the championship pylon. Then you have 11th place at Jacob Fife. 12th will be Chad Mikus. Mikus tonight looking for another strong run, while a top 10 at Talladega does not suffice. It's the first step toward a real chance at making it back inside the top 10 again. Thomas Bressi 13th, DJ Stagner 14th, Chuck Sweeting P15, Alan Rawell 16th, with Tom Wetmore 17th, Kyle Cooper 18th, Cal Fularski 19th, and Daniel Foss the 20th and final driver on the starting grid here for the Pro Powder and Paint 150 Martinsville Speedway will come alive again, this time with the sights and sounds of championship racing here in the Integrity Ignite Series. 2 minutes remaining of final practice, and right now at the top of the board, Thomas Bressi. This driver, the number 51, as we see him those Tuesday nights, he's in the 8th tonight. It's Tom Wetmore. He is second quickest, 77 thousandths back. Nothing to lose for Wetmore tonight, short of course, losing the engine, losing the car itself, but he's not going to lose anything when it comes to point standings. That's not what he's here for, although many of the contenders up at the head of the field absolutely are. Looking at Justin Morton right now, finding himself P5. JTM looking for a strong result tonight and expected based on that qualifying run. Matter of fact, Thomas Bressi, who you could say has been their strongest driver all season long, is going to be starting the furthest back outside of the top 10. Meanwhile, Justin Morton is in second and Matthew Thunhorst is in first, and they have been the team to beat for the majority of the season. With the exception, of course, of Domination Intimidation Racing, I think JTM has the firmest chance at the championship. Those two teams will go till the very end, presumably both of which will send drivers into the final 5. I think that all depends on how this next round goes, because they're both going to send multiple drivers in to that round of 10 comfortably today. Morton, Thomas, Bressi alike are going to make it in alongside Matthew Thunhorst, and as long as everything goes well, Rob Ackley, Michael Stroll are due to make it in, and Chad Mikus tonight has a chance to join them and make it. Of our 10 drivers, 6 of which will come from Big 2 teams, 7 of which, as a matter of fact, if, of course, Nick Tarbuck keeps up the good work, and that would make it 70% dominant from 2 organizations, leaving only 3 independent spots available. Remains to be seen, but the potential for total team control is still upon us here. Bressi clearly quicker in this session than that of qualifying. It'll be Thomas now in the fastest time for final practice. It comes in at a 19.313, and so qualifying has concluded on that note. The time that Thomas Bressi put up in this session would have been good for pole by just about 4/100ths of a second. Drivers populating the circuit, 180 laps tonight, which comes out to just over, give or take, our originally scheduled distance of 150 laps. Grab a little bit more added on. This is the championship race after all, and we don't have as large a field, which means the possibility for drivers getting involved in additional incidents is significantly decreased. A field of 20 races differently at Martinsville compared to a field of 25 or 26. So on and so forth. So we had a field of almost 30 drivers at Talladega. Bring them here to Martinsville. Admittedly, we'd be bound to see trouble. And when you consider the fact that 15 drivers are technically left in the championship race, and up to 14 of which are going to be here tonight, well, becomes clear as day as to what to expect. Clean racing, for the most part, is the goal, and I think that's going to be the expectation for drivers here, even if there's a lot on the line. Everyone going to be up to the starting grid. Boomer Logan will not be racing with us, and instead, off-track admins tonight's race. And so, 2 laps of pacing before we go green. Once again in Virginia. Martinsville, Virginia, when it comes to the lore of the Integrity Racing League, is home to Ross Cato's iconic walk-off victory in the penultimate round of the championship last year. But for Monday nights, the allure has not yet been developed. In stock car racing, it's the exact opposite. Since 1949, Martinsville Speedway has operated as a half-mile circuit with stock car racing of all disciplines, notably the NASCAR Cup Series, coming now for 60-plus years. 0.5 miles, minimal banking, often referred to as the paperclip. It's going to be a harsh circuit for drivers to navigate tonight, with weather being very moderate to combat the unique nature of this track. Track temp coming in at 69 degrees Fahrenheit and the ambient temperature at 67. Early fall weather is going to be kicking in tonight, and tires should not be much an issue, although expect tire fall-off to be very real as the night goes on. These short tracks have been fantastic recently for the Xfinity Series, with many photo finishes in the last laps of racing. Of course, many of which have come by overtimes. We have 180 laps until we decide whether or not we get to that point. JTM, first and second to bring the field to green here from the paperclip. Inside line gets off better. That's going to be Matthew Thunhorst and company. Green flags out once again to end the round of 15 here in Martinsville. Going to be Matthew Thunhorst's domain for the first two laps here, side by side. Alongside these two drivers, you can see the number 13 machine, the number 9 alike, toe-to-toe. Looks like very little trouble so far, and of course maintaining. Qualifying positions have made the most for these drivers so far. Well, of course, only 3 laps in. What's next, though, that remains to be seen. Vinny Tigner right now trying to make his move down to the inside in that number 13 spot. Brandon Bernhardt up to 11th, and it all continues here. Well, nice to see the opening few laps not coming with any incident. Single file, though, so perhaps the exact opposite of what you'd expect. Short track chaos has not yet developed, and instead, you'll see this very calm nature of racing lap after lap. Maybe we're going to get into a circumstance where this is the dominant form of action. Drivers are going to be biding their time and waiting for that first and eventually the next pit cycle after that. 3 pit stops are possible tonight. 2 would be preferable. Now it's going to be Braxton Weiss getting up to the number 8 of Matthew Thunhorst. JTM's top 2 separated now by just 1 driver. So really not much to worry about when it comes to Braxton Weiss. As it stands, of course, anyway, everyone getting into line. You can't imagine it'll be all too much aggressive racing in these opening laps. And these laps will tick down if, of course, drivers cooperate. We talk about Talladega SuperSpeedway, the track we just went to last week, as one where cooperation is so pivotal to success. I would say in a similar way, that's something you see at Martinsville. Although, is it similar on the racetrack? Maybe not. It doesn't look similar. You see these drivers, of course, not shoving it full throttle, not making any contact for fear, of course, they'll send their corresponding drivers around. They'll send their teammates around, perhaps. All those around them, you do not want to send that chrome horn and give anything too risky off. This is going to be something troublesome when we talk about short tracks in the Octane series. These Xfinity cars, they pack a punch, and they can take a punch as well. You can see the front end there, not going to be sloped down all too much, which means relatively flat contact won't mean anything. Even a little bit of corner rubbing back and forth in those panels will not be the worst of things, but at the same time, you just don't want to lay on someone again and again and again. That repetition is deadly for a driver's run. Of course, that success could be taken away in an instant, and if not by an instant, well, you see now it's going to be a single car spin. Brandon Bernhardt goes around. Caution's out for the first time tonight. 10 laps in out of 180. Bernhardt looks like he went around alone. Minimal damage, if any, and it looks like it's to the right side, so perhaps some assistance. As we look back again, here's your replay. Let's find out what happened. Taking a look back now with Brandon Bernhardt, number 81, was at the back of the field here, racing with Rob Ackley, and yes, single file, single car incident. just going to be wiggling up the track, overcorrects, and not much a spin, more a smack in the wall. Nevertheless, a safety caution is going to be brought out to ensure all drivers are not involved in anything else more troublesome, and so we pace again. 12 laps in out of 180. Kyle Cooper now going to be making it in, as is Cal Filarski, and both of which are going to drop in together. You can see that number 91, and then you got the number 73, 19th and 20th. 12 laps of rubber between each of them. And now they're going to get themselves a brand new set, come back out again. Deciding against tires, as a matter of fact. It will be fuel their only decision. So splash of fuel and go. For the first time, we see drivers head down a pit road. Tires will not be taken. Keep in mind, we do have a limit on tire of only 4 sets available to drivers. You don't want to burn those up in the early laps here. So 12 in out of 180, it would make really no sense to come in right now and decide taking one is the right thing to do. So, of course, you'll see drivers abstain from such a practice. Keep on going here at lap 13 out of 180. Matthew Thunhorse, top driver right now, with Braxton Deweese second, Justin Morton third, and Don Stevenson in fourth, Blake Gordon P5, Michael Stroll sixth, and Nick Tarbuck then in seventh. That's the way they roll as we get ready to go at it once again. The number 8 of Matthew Thunhorse will restart, preferably on the inside, and Braxton Deweese will be now in second. Maybe this is going to help out Justin Morton. Again, Morton losing that second spot rather quickly to Deweese, who started on the inside. So perhaps the inside groove is preferable for every driver, and you might see Braxton decide to go down there himself. Now we're seeing drivers come in for a second time. One driver to be exact, that's Kyle Cooper, presumably going for a second splash of fuel, and he's going to get himself that much more topped off. Won't have to worry about really anything when it comes to strategy, at least in these opening laps. The tires are not all too warm, really haven't been put through all too many laps, and now he's got himself more fuel than anyone else on the track. Kyle Cooper's gamble is going to be starting at the back of the field and trying to make it all the way up as we go 1 lap to green this time by. Let's find out who starts where. So JTM are once again together, but this time on the inside line. Now you'll see Don Stevenson up on the high. He's right there in that number 47. A winner again in the Octane Series this year, and the first driver of all full-time candidates in the Octane Series to break the dominance of the Big Three up. He won 2 weeks ago. Now the question becomes, can he find a victory in this series, one that he has yet to find all throughout the year? Even beyond that point, no Ignite Series victories in his campaign from 2023 onward. Thunhorse gets the jump again, maintaining his 2023 throwback paint scheme and already launching gears to get back up into the lead. He'll bring Deweese right there with him. Simply put, leaders get away the best, and it's side by side from there. You'll see Don Stevenson now toe-to-toe with Michael Stroll. Michael decides to put it up a little bit higher, and there goes Jacob Fife as well. Number 36 machine's going to be the 19 of Blake Gordon, and as they go side by side, you got Thomas Bressi there all the way at the tail end. It's that number 24 of Bressi who's got to get up to his teammates here if he wants any chance at a successful race, although I'm certain this number 24 team has their sights set on what is yet to come. Road Course Racing, they believe, set it overall, that 24 crew and JTM alike, with Morton and Thomas Bressi responsible for the majority of all road course victories in the Ignite Series. Contact! Michael Stroll is going to go around spinning. Parking lot might ensue. 3 drivers spin. Yellow flag is out, and the final 6 drivers all come to a stop. Parking lot to kick off this race. Second caution, much more extreme than the first, although it looks like minimal damage for everyone involved. Luckily, I think everyone will continue. Here's an instant replay on what just happened. And it begins with Michael Stroll. Blake Gordon right there with him. Looks like Gordon contact, and that's the type of contact you cannot reliably get out of. Tarbuck is then going to hit Blake Gordon. Then Vinny Tigner going to be tagged off by the number 51, of course, the 8 tonight of Tom Wetmore. And Alan Rawell slides too. Stagner, Bernhardt, Mikus all back up. Daniel Foss gets into Brandon Bernhardt, and it looks like 4 drivers involved at the minimum, and then many of which you have to stop at the back Caution is out again, and it looks like caution's breeding cautions. That's one that perhaps wouldn't have happened if we didn't have our first. Yellow flag is out once again. There's Michael Stroll. There's DJ Stagner. A few drivers deciding to come down to pit road here and, of course, get splash of fuel and maybe even try to go for tires. Cal Filarski and Kyle Cooper alike have decided to come in multiple times over. However, right now we have no verifiable results that show anyone besides two drivers we saw previously have come down for more than fuel. It'll be Matthew Thunhorse leading once again with Braxton Deweese right with. Don Stevenson gets up to 4th, and even after that incident, Blake Gordon will be in 5th. So maintaining position just looked to be like a racing incident, nothing too intentional, and luckily every driver able to slam those brakes and make sure the damage was minimal at the end of it all. So as we get to it for lap number 22, the impact of a positive start to this race, like green flag laps, as significant as it is, you got to understand that first yellow flag can flip everything on its head, and it will most likely be that influence that carries us through the first maybe 100 laps here. We still have a ways to go. We've gotten through 20 plus already. When you consider how much time there is left, there's still a lot of time here for this event to play out with cautions in mind. So if we see these first few laps, first few cautions, all about cleaning up the field and figuring out who can handle it, expect a few more yellows along the way, as now it'll be the number 8 of Matthew Thunhorse once again bringing us back to the green, and with them, Justin Morton and the number 13 of Braxton Deweese. Chad Mike is toe-to-toe now with the number 81 of Brandon Bernhard. Looks like more of the same up in front, side by side, minimal sight of 3 wide, and looks like that's the way it will stay. Don't expect drivers to go to that 3 wide formation unless absolutely necessary. Maybe with a lap driver, it's still unlikely even then, and you can see the pavement here in Martinsville. The bottom groove is always going to be preferential, minimal banking, and so distance cannot really be traveled effectively on that high side. It just is not plausible. It's something you see at a track like New Hampshire. It's something you see in the final turn of Sonoma. You cannot make that outside groove work and expect to be competitive lap over lap. The best place to go is almost always the inside groove, the innermost groove at that. They're all working the inside, but when you get to that innermost circle, that's when you've really struck gold. Right now, Jacob Fife defending well on Don Stevenson. It's almost as if you have to put a little bit less effort into it to make this work lap after lap. Jacob Fife in the number 36. In addition, getting the power off the corner to pass Don Stevenson. It's a prime example of making that inside work because it has the best momentum straight up. And unfortunately, when it comes to the way Martinsville races, it's almost never a multi-groove track. At least with these modern Xfinity cars anyway, there's really little incentive to stay up there, and you can see Don Stevenson right now, he's getting effectively freight trained. 28 laps in out of 180, he is down to 8th on this run. You saw him as high as about 5th place working with Jacob Fife, but now he's getting pressured all around him, and since he's fallen back so many, now he's just got to settle back in line for a position he certainly did not want, and it was a position he did not have to begin with. You got Vinny Tigner in 9th, Rob Acme in 10th, 11th is going to be Tom Wetmore, and 12th is Chad Mikas. 13th place will be Chuck Sweeting, and Brandon Bernhardt's going to be 14th. Kyle Cooper in P15 here, the first driver to have taken a trip down to pit road. New tires right now not really seeming to show any major benefits as we see of the drivers behind Kyle Cooper. So that's going to be 14th on the back. The only exception now is Brandon Bernhardt, who looks like he just got a piece of the wall. Everyone else has come in, and it looks like all of which haven't been able to make up any positions based on green flag pace. Purely anyway. Bernhardt just had an incident, and all the other drivers behind those on new tires did as well. So right now, the initial strategy, the default strategy, shall we say, looks to be the most potent, and it is effective right now in keeping that top 10 in full condition of course, healthy, without any problems of having to worry about another strategy, and intact it remains. And you'll see now, Thomas Bressi, he is in the thick of it, running in 6th. And then you got P5. As it stands, it's going to be Jacob Fife just ahead. Take a ride on board now with the number 24 and see what's going on. Thomas Bressi right here, manhandling that number 24. And right now, this Chevy Camaro, it's been consistently one of the quickest drivers week after week. And he's going to have a break from the speed as a caution flies again. DJ Stagner with some trouble. And you can see suspension damage to the number 64. Might be the first major incident of the day for the 64 team, as he had to get involved in that parking lot before. Stagner involved in our 3rd caution. Let's take a look back right now and see what happened to DJ as the back of the field strikes again. Looks like for DJ here, 64 going to be lonely, and then see Chuck Sweeting tries to avoid it, can't, clipped on the front end, and Chuck Sweeting single car spin ends up becoming a multi-car incident as drivers are not able to avoid it in due time. So DJ Stagner, Chuck Sweeting getting the worst of it, both of which Chuck on the back end. Looks like DJ on both sides. Bad news for that number 64 team. And Matthew Thunhorst right now is going to be leading the way in that number 8. It was very unfortunate to see right there. There's not much else that can come for the number 64 Stagner short of a trip to pit road. 3rd caution already, and unfortunately they're flying out rather fast. Matthew Thunhorst has been the leader for the entirety of this race so far, and that dominance has been unquestioned. Now, almost a half of the field is coming to pit road, and most recently, Chad Mikas is coming, Vinny Tigner is coming, DJ Stagner has come in as well, and Chuck Sweeting, 20th and last of all those on the timing sheet. Well, he just made his way in, and it looks like he's going to get some additional service here and now to hopefully fix up that back end. Still able to keep on going. Race leader Matthew Thunhorst with Braxton Deweese about a half lap ahead. Every driver still remains on the lead lap. No fast repairs tonight, so if damage becomes terminal, you're going to see drivers fall down the order rapidly, and they're going to stay there. Even 1 lap might be detrimental, given the fact that 1 lap can spiral most often into multiple. You do not want to go 1 lap down under any circumstance here in Martinsville. And we've even seen a few times in this season before where drivers or the majority of the field get trapped 1 lap down based on where they stand before the yellow flag flies. Now, one driver has the lucky dog in each and every caution here in the Integrity Racing League, which means that if many drivers went down to pit road just before the caution, that unless the remainder of the lead lap pack decides to go down and in, that many of which will still be stuck away from competitive timing. 1 lap down, sometimes it's a death sentence at a boring intermediate. Boring, so to speak, because the strategy tends to be very uniform and there's not many cautions. Sometimes it's a death sentence at a track like Talladega, where on average we only have 3 cautions over 200 plus miles. And sometimes these short tracks, 1 lap is a death sentence. Maybe not just that lap itself, but when you think what comes with 1 lap, usually multiple others come right back after. Matthew and then Braxton. 1-2 still. Just Morton on the inside looking for a little bit of recovery here. Maybe a chance to get up to 2nd if, of course, he gets the jump with his teammate. Green flag's out once again for lap 40. Thunhorst is able to get away, but it looks like Morton can't quite defend his position well enough. It'll be Braxton Deweese back in 2nd once more. And so the mid-pack comes into form once again, side by side. 73 Kyle Cooper, 25 here of Chad Mikas, all of which can be rather close as now the number 69 of Alan Rowell bangs up the wall, and just a little bit of contact won't mean anything too major right now, but that could end up being something worth noting. Aerodynamically speaking, Martinsville is the least dependent of all short tracks. You do not have a lot of high banking. It's not like Richmond or Iowa where momentum is preferable. Yes, you need momentum here in Martinsville, but a lot of it comes from simply running that right line and having the motor up under you. So even if the back end has a little bit of trouble, even if, of course, you got a little bit of a scuffing on the sides, as long as the motor is intact, oftentimes you have as good a chance as anyone to come out with a top 5 finish or even a win. But for Brandon Bernhardt, it looks like that's not really exactly the case. He's having more trouble now in the 16th spot, holding on, and it looks like that has only increased lap after lap as a result of continued damage. The back end looks to be the worst of which for the Bernhardt machine right now, and it might only get worse if he's not able to find a quick solution in the coming laps here. Brandon Bernhardt looking to survive though and maybe move on in his points championship battle. Although he's not a driver inside the top 15, he is a full-time competitor and has seen success multiple ways. Now, his most recent claim for victory was last year. He's been with us for quite a while, but you might remember second in one of the 2023 brackets, which was eventually won by Tyler Hensley. Now, since that point, it was he and Tyler Hensley that went at it, rather. It looks like Bernhardt has not quite been able to find his way back into victory lane in any sense, and tonight he's just having those troubles once again. And it almost looks familiar to how Blake Gordon has been multiple times this season before his eventual breakout win, and Gordon desperately needing that to move on to the round of 10. Well, I think for Brandon Bernhardt, if he ever wants to get that momentum on his side, he's going to need that breakout victory, but it's not going to come with another weave and bob up to the high side of the track, and he'll have to get away for Alan Rowell to break through. All the while, the leaders come across the line again. Caution's out, and it'll be for the 5th time tonight, as it looks like at the tail end of the field, Cal Filarski is going to be already down to pit road. Caution is out, and it looks like the involved driver will be down to pit road rapidly so as to not get in anyone else's way. Unfortunate for Filarski, but it looks like it once again early struggles for the 91 team and might be out of this race entirely if it was anything major. Let's find out now. Sliding contact, it was not, so saved, but it looks like still going immediately down into pit road, and Cal Filarski might just be calling it based on that immediate reaction. Filarski was able to get away from any damage, but it looks like a quick arrival to pit road will bring the 91 out of the lead lap and be the first driver off the lead lap tonight. More drivers to pit road, including likes of Blake Gordon. Chad Mikas went in, but it looks like also now Rob Ackley, Michael Stroll, Kyle Cooper, and company, all of which decide to make their way down and in here. So domination, intimidation, racing, a big portion of the field, of course, in them deciding to come down to pit road now, and that's going to show you more than anything else, strategy is on for certain now. 50 laps in, and it's gone by in a flash. Even though it might not feel like it's gone all too quick with these cautions, you can see laps are already being put down at a rapid rate, to the point where halfway point is now not too far away. You've gone 50 laps, and there's some 40 to go until we hit the halfway point. There's Nick Tarbuck, DJ Stagner, and Brendan Bernhardt. Then, of course, you got leader Matthew Thunhorst coming right around the track. One, two, three. It's all remained the same, but then you got to look back to the number 4 spot, held now by Jacob Fife. And perhaps Jacob's best run of the season came at the USA International Speedway before his win at Talladega. It was USA where he was able to come through and cement a second-place finish nearly 12 years after his first runner-up finish at the very same track, or rather, his very first victory. He was looking to go for another victory more than a decade, and nearly a decade and a half after. Fife was not able to get the job done. However, he came very pretty close against the likes of Sebastian Miller and, of course, Braxton DeWeese, who finds himself right ahead. Now, back at the short tracks, Jacob has gone from 11th up to 4th today, a total gain of 7 spots. And he has been wonderful so far in making his moves up into the top 5 and the upper echelon of track position. He is firmly there now. The question, I think, now remains as one thing. What can Jacob Fife do as to those next few spots, which seem to be untouchable so far? Is there anything that Jacob can do right now besides bide his time? It's never easy to stomp through the field after you've gotten past the first 10 to 15 cars, because usually what's left in front of you are the best and quickest drivers, and most often you've worn yourself out by that point when it comes to equipment. Jacob Fife is one now of only 5 drivers on the original set of rubber, so we might begin to see that onslaught of drivers on new tire beginning to dominate the pace of play here in Virginia. Matthew Thunder's going to lead us once again, and it'll be a 5th time around as your control car on a restart. Green flag's out at lap number 54. Thunder's gets the jump, bringing the field right there with. Number 24 is going to now slow down again. Caution's out. It's going to be Alan Rawell. Looks like Brendan Bernhardt catching a piece. Back of the field brings out the caution once again. This will be your 6th of the day here. 55 laps in out of 180. So it looks like 2 familiar drivers with some damage already getting involved with one another. Talking first and foremost about that number 69 of Alan Rawell. 3 wide here with Nick Tarbuck. Tarbuck shoots low, Rawell goes high, and that's going to tag the number 81 of Bernhardt. It looks like Nick Tarbuck had ample room to go around, but Alan Rawell decides to give a little bit more room, and that does not help out the 81 Bernhardt. Instead, has to pay the price and end up with another instance of contact, which I'm sure Brandon did not want. Caution is out again. 56 laps in out of 180, and now we're coming up on that lap 60 point in which many a driver might come down to pit road. Forgetting, of course, about that uniform pit strategy, multiple drivers have come in more than twice already, and a majority of the field has already come in more than once. Perhaps we're going to see 2 to 3 stop at the minimum as this race progresses. And talking about when we are expecting to see pit stops, that has a lot to do with when we are expecting to see cautions. Based on the analytics for this first third of the race, the expectation is that we would have about 17 cautions if this entire race goes at the same pace we've seen in these opening laps, which admittedly, it's a high quantity of cautions, but it also means a high quantity of pit stop opportunities in which drivers will not go one lap down. Expecting to see more cautions is also going to bring up that number of pit stops. If we were to go green all the way, 1 to 2 pit stops would be the absolute most these drivers would have to deal with. Now, of course, facing the fact that you don't lose as much track position, instead, you have to make something work out by forcing your way through. Now that everyone's bunched up, forcing your way through can be done. Even if not easy, there's always the potential for drivers to really push through and make that charge. Maybe teamwork helps out the most with that, but at Martinsville, it's every driver for themselves, as we've continued to see. All but 5 drivers have come into pit road so far tonight, and it looks like those original 5 are still holding out as the leaders of this race, and they have not seemed so far all too concerned with going in for extra rubber. Thunderhorst and Justin Morton. Long last, it'll be those original two drivers leading us back, and this time around, well, they had to work for it. They've got the chance to bring us back for lap 60 of 180. 120 laps remain. We go back at it once again. Let's see now what Matthew Thunhorst has in order for us, as he's got Justin Morton right there beside. Green flags out yet again here. Welcome back to racing, and the outside with a major jump. Matthew Thunhorst continues that dominant streak. It is 6-0 so far. Matthew Thunhorst versus the rest of the field on those restarts. Justin Morton has certainly been much weaker. He's going to let Thomas Bressie go by for second. All the while, you're going to see Jacob Fife and company now nearly contact with Tom Wetmore. And it looks like Roadhouse Racing in the middle of a domination intimidation racing. High side and the low side for Pro Powder and Paint. Now it looks like Wetmore able to get down to the bottom. But that three-wide maneuver, as risky as it was, experienced drivers able to hold down lines, put things together as if nothing came of it. Great to see that, of course, as Tom Wetmore now gets the run off the final corner and makes his way up once again. That's got Wetmore up in a 7th. Jacob Fife is going to be in 6th, and then there's Don Stevenson there. He is in 5th as we go single file up in front once again. Now, 2x2 seems to be much more prominent if we look a little bit further back, and particularly you're going to see drivers like Kyle Cooper here with Nick Tarbuck, and now Michael Stroll. DIR, Domination Intimidation Racing, looking to make some passes in a row. And why not, as Kyle Cooper now is going to be falling like a rock. It looks like up next it's going to be the number 73 of Cooper, maybe falling back all the way to the tail end of the field. Meanwhile, up at the front, now you'll see Tom Wetmore going at it with Jacob Fife. A little bit of a second part of that battle we saw just a few laps ago. But this time it looks like Tom Wetmore on the offense, and he is not going to have anything to worry about regarding being 3 wide or being shuffled or being stuffed in. This time Wetmore's got the pace, and he will make a move, and he's got himself now just ahead on the charge to get up to Don Stevenson. Take a ride on board now with a 0-8. Oh, Don Stevenson's going to slide. Taking a look further back, the 47 brings out the yellow flag. Caution is out. And Don Stevenson ends up sliding, although it looks like a minimal, if any, damage. Don out of the groove, and the caution will fly for the 7th time tonight. And a safety caution this time around at such a high position, definitely warranted. This could have been disaster, but luckily Stevenson gets out of the way, straightens it up, and so we will go green in just a few laps again. Don Stevenson brings out the caution, 68 laps in out of 180, and it looks like from inside the top 5 fight all the way down now into the 14th position. Don Stevenson's got a long ways to go to recover from what was overall a strong start. Now, he's going to have to make this middle sector of the race worth it if he wants a chance for that position again. Stevenson, winner in Atlanta 2 weeks ago in the Octane Series, is no stranger to letting time pass by in order to find that success. But here in Martinsville anyway, it's very hard to get the distance made back up. Track position being so crucial, meaning that if you end up at the back of the field even once, it's very hard to really make your way back up, short of getting lucky or having a quick car, the likes of which is significantly faster than all those around you. Michael Stroll found himself far up higher in the order, but you might remember about 25 laps ago, or rather now 50 laps ago, he got involved with an incident that dropped him outside of the top 10. Outside of the top 10, he still remains and is the 11th right now. It looks like Michael Stroll is suffering from the setbacks of not having that full-on track position, and you can see him here 70 laps in out of 180, still at the tail end and hasn't quite been able to find his way up in front. Still time to recover, and with his teammate Chad Mikas there in 7th, and then from there you got Nick Tarbuck, who's going to find himself in 10th. It's not a lost cause by any means, but there's still a load of work to be done for all these drivers here who are on the championship bubble. Let's talk about those championship standings while we've got a little bit of time here and show you exactly what there is to look out for. Jacob Fife is 23 under, needs a victory. In addition, Vinny Tigner, 16 under, effectively needs a win. Justin Morton, Chuck Sweeting, and Chad Mikas all here. Brad Patton will forfeit one of those bubble positions and fall out of contention, and so that means that Chad Mikas, effectively speaking, is going to make it in as perhaps your 10th seed based on that knowledge. However, he still has to best Chuck Sweeting and Justin Morton. Hey, so far, Justin Morton's done a wonderful job and has been better than Chad Mikas on the day. It comes down to Mikas and Morton. It looks like those are the two final drivers who have a firm opportunity to make it in. And maybe, if you take a look at the statistics one more time, they got a chance to both knock out Don Stevenson or Matthew Thunhorst. So, Thunhorst, Stevenson, Morton, Chad Mikas, 4 drivers around that bubble, all very competitive all season long, and one of which will definitely have to go home, maybe 2 of which if the back half of the field comes alive later today. Nevertheless, green flag and a fly for 7th restart. It's going to be Matthew Thunhorst right down low, bringing us right back to green, and as you can see inside with a wonderful start, the number 8 has been untouchable so far. And now you know that for Matthew Thunhorst, this is effectively a win or be eliminated race, even though it isn't necessarily a do-or-die situation. He finds himself right now coming up in this race by only 3 points, and he's got many of his championship contenders right around him, as the caution's going to fly again for the 8th time tonight. Reason being, Daniel Foss, Chuck Sweeting, DJ Stagner, big trouble. And it looks like this might be a race ender for a driver like DJ Stagner. His 3rd incident of the day, 2nd one he's directly involved in. So let's take a look back, as it looks like, again, Chuck Sweeting might be part of the initial cause, which brings us once again into mayhem. 3 wide, Foss, Sweeting, Alan Rawell, that might be what starts it, and then Alan Rawell ends it, hooking up Daniel Foss. Then all 4 drivers careening into each other, and huge trouble there. Stagner, Foss, Sweeting, and Alan Rawell, all of which I have high doubts of them getting back at a competitive pace, as Sweeting already looks to have disconnected. Alan Rawell and DJ Stagner are coming out of pit road, and Daniel Foss is already there, 1 lap down. So your 8th caution of the day, 76 laps in out of 180, and unfortunately for every 10 laps we have had 1 caution to accompany it. And I think above all else, every driver here is hoping for a second half switch up, where attitudes about how to race get a little bit different in the back of the field, and we have just enough time, just enough room, and just enough speed to put together a long green flag run, the likes of which we have not yet been able to see today. And the best chance we had at it was, I would think, at the beginning of this race. When that first yellow flag falls, everything changes. But unfortunately tonight, it fell rather quickly. 77 laps in out of 100, and it looks like we will go back green at lap number 79. Nearly at the halfway point, and so far, well, as time will tell, the number 8 machine of Matthew Thunhorst has been a significant part of this race, leading most every lap, and his JTM teammate Justin Morton has stood right behind him. Hasn't been able to stay right beside, though, and he's given that room multiple times before, to the likes of which including Thomas Bressie, and then you also saw Braxton Deweese. Getting pretty tricky right now as to what's going on for these drivers at the head of the field. Maybe they've got a chance, of course, to keep things together and go a little bit longer if more drivers file out, but that's still something that remains to be seen. Nothing is a definite, and although we now have 3 official retirees and 5 drivers off the lead lap, a field of 15 here certainly have some trouble when it comes to, of course, keeping it fully clean at any circuit. When it comes to short track racing, Martinsville, doesn't matter the type of drivers, you'll always end up seeing chaos. Green flag and a fly, lap 80. We'll have just over 100 laps to go at this point, which is going to bring us into what is in effect anyway, a sprint of a race from this point onward. Matthew Thunors, Thomas Bressi hold the keys. JTM 1, 2, 3 at the front of the field, led even still by the number 8 in that Ford Mustang. Green flags out, getting the jump again. Matthew Thunors this time bringing a stronger Justin Morton. Not nearly strong enough though to hang on against Thomas Bressi. And untouchable Matthew Thunors has been so far in these restarts. He is 8-0 so far, getting a launch against any driver that's gone against him and every driver that's gone against him. Wonderful work to this point. You got to wonder now, of course, what can someone like Tom Wetmore do, who's found himself up in front when it comes to pace, but has been mired back given how close he's been to drivers like Justin Morton and Braxton DeWeese. It is a wonder that he just hasn't been able to make it through. And I think that all comes down to the lack of green flag time we've had. Maybe these drivers are indeed quicker, but have not yet been able to find their way around. Now, as you ride on board with Tom Wetmore, he's going to have to go down to the inside groove, swooping under the number 9 of Justin Morton. And the most vulnerable that Justin has looked so far today, it looks like, well, he's hanging on a 4th, but only just. Tom Wetmore might be the driver that takes that one away from him. You can see if he gets passed by Wetmore here, and he does so quickly, he might be filed out of line completely. There's going to be the number 25 and Chad Mikas coming right up as well. And here comes Mikas. There's that number 25. Justin Morton, who is in jeopardy when it comes to the bubble, cannot afford to be passed by the 25 of Chad Mikas. And yet here he comes, spinning. Chad Mikas goes around. Yellow flag is going to fly once again. And this has major championship implications, particularly for the 25 of Mikas, who goes around and gets collected with minimal damage. It's your 9th caution of the day, and the 25 of Chad Mikas, well, he ends up backing the entire field up with this one. Take a look. Contact Rob Ackley, looks like major netcode there, then almost getting up into the 29 and a 3 alike. Domination, Intimidation Racing. Contact between 2 drivers, Ackley and Mikas. Everyone else gets away. We will not have any major trouble thanks to that incident, and it looks like both drivers should be able to continue and perhaps recover their position as the night progresses. That will move Michael Stroll up into 8th, Nick Tarbuck up into 7th, and so 86 laps 10 out of 180, another caution, and a 9th of which brings us to halfway pacing. So unfortunately, we get there with very little time spent under green so far, and that has ended up being the nature of this race. Even the front runners now giving in, faltering, and making some critical mistakes. That's one you just cannot afford to have, especially when you find yourself on that bubble battle where every point is the difference between advancing and being eliminated. Multiple drivers up for pit road this time by. Now, keep one thing in mind. Of the top 3 drivers, all 3 of which have decided not to go to pit road once today. All of which are still on that original set of tire and that original, of course, splash of fuel. Although it looks like with the attitudes drivers have taken today, you do need to go down into pit road to make it to the end of race. The only thing that might be sort of the differentiator is how many cautions we've had. Take a ride on board right now with Matthew Thunors. We'll see if he's saving any fuel. And it sounds like he definitely is here, and you can see on the tachometer, which is going to be at the bottom left of your screen, exactly how many revs Matthew is putting out. 4th gear at 3,000 at the most, and I would think maybe even clutching and coasting to get down to some 2,000. About 29.50 right now. That's how low it goes down to here for these drivers in these NASCAR Xfinity cars, idling fully at 2,000. And then, of course, the opportunity to get up to some 80,000 or 8,000, 8,100. So right now, Matthew's putting out minimal power and trying to make sure that he is as efficient as possible during these cautions where the pace speed is only 40 miles an hour. No need to really put down the speed. Just get readied up for those restarts and go from there. We come back for a one-lap dash to get the halfway bonus. Thomas Bresci going to be down on the inside, but so far, Matthew Thunhorse has been 8-0 when it comes to leading the way and getting the jump on these restarts. Can he make it a flat 9 before we make it on to lap number 100? Let's find out now. Green flag's going to fly yet again for lap number 90 of 180, and again, well, as it's been like clockwork, Matthew Thunhorse will bring the field back to green, and everyone else behind him is just going to have to stand back and watch as number 8 does exactly what he's done all night long. Braxton Weiss lunging, Tom Wetmore right there with. At the line, yes, it's going to be Matthew Thunhorse leading again. He'll collect his 90th lap of the day. And so you look a little bit further back, the AC Delco Chevrolet, the number 3, goes toe-to-toe here with Nick Tarbuck. Calculations for points are going to be so tricky based on how close many of these drivers are, 5 of which are within 5 of the bubble, and that, of course, includes every driver who's here tonight. Not to mention Brad Patton, who is also on that bubble. This line is complicated to discuss, and Brad Patton being the only driver to officially retire from the championship means that everyone else here has to figure things out, understanding that it's far from over no matter where you are, unless you're one of those top 2 or 3, 4 drivers. Even JTM's finest, such as Matthew Thunhorse and, of course, Justin Morton, not locked in. Don Stevenson brings out caution number 10 on the day. Yellow flags out again. It looks like a single car spin. We're gonna take a restart, of course, replay regardless. And bringing the tape back, you'll see Don Stevenson low, but with nobody around, contact perhaps, coming up to the 81's back bumper, and it looks like Vinny Tigner then shooting that number 47 right around 360 and a full one. Yellow flag is out again, 100 laps in out of 180. We're coming up to rather quickly. Don Stevenson's going to be one of the many of which involved in at least one caution tonight now. Everyone has gone down to pit road. Matthew Thunhorse, Thomas Bresci, Michael Stroll and company have decided to come in, and at long last, the drivers who decided to abstain fully, they've gone in for their first pit cycle of the day. Now, I would think the anticipation for them or the hope is that they're only going to come in this once and it won't matter any time else, because many other drivers in the first 90 laps decided to go down and in. It only left those 5 who decided to hold on until the very end, and now maybe the goal is to have that preference as the race goes on to being minimal on pit road. Matthew Thunhorse gets out in the way, and this will leave Michael Stroll as your race leader. Now, this is tricky because this might honestly be the move of the race for Michael Stroll that gives him the win if, of course, he can go all the way, which we are skeptical about. We do not understand whether or not drivers can go 150 laps, although based on the fact that those drivers who held out so long just went in, pretty unlikely. Maybe this is the biggest thing to happen for someone like Jacob Fife, who's only been on a 20-lap stint and perhaps can go some 100 laps. Maybe. That's not a guarantee either. Really, nothing is what we're looking at here. That's what makes it so hard to determine who's got it and who does not. Going to go green again in 2 laps time. It's going to be 97 laps in out of 180 right now. 98 of 180. We get the 1 to green signal, and 99 of 180. We go back at it. So the triple-digit numbers will finish the job tonight. Michael Stroll, your race leader in the number 3. And now Domination Intimidation Racing 1-2 up in the front. Yeah, Jacob Fife in 3rd and Vinny Tigner there in 4th and Don Stevenson P5. So while the top 2 is a big team, and you got some independent drivers who've decided to litter the field up in front and now have a chance to really go out there and maybe take a chance at the race win. And this is what that pit strategy, as a necessity, tends to provide. You have to go down a pit road, and so no matter what, you're going to have to relinquish that position. And it looks like, unfortunately, for the drivers who have been in control for the majority of this race, they have now given up spots which have looked nearly impossible to get back, at least through the opening portion of this night. That could change, but at the same time, it really does look like it's been challenging as ever to make it by and take those positions. It could happen, yes, but right now, I don't think I would be too confident. You just have to let everything fall where it may, as Michael Stroll and Nick Tarbuck get a chance to lead. For the first time tonight, someone not named Matthew Thunhorst is your line leader. Green flag's out. Going to be now Michael Stroll getting that jump and the advantage. Next to him, going to be the number 29 of Nick Tarbuck, who falls back immediately. Huge incident, Matthew Thunhorst, Tom Wetmore, Rob Ackley, Justin Morton. Yellow flag is out for what could be your biggest caution of the day. And as if last yellow flag didn't have championship implications, throwback for Matthew Thunhorst. You might remember last time he was leading at a short track, this very same instance happened to him. He was the leader, dominant, and then first time he was out of line, well, he fell out of sight. And Thunhorst, who was dominant all throughout with 100 laps, led, nearly 100 anyway, championship race might have just come to a close. Additionally, Justin Morton damaged significantly as well. We'll take a look back to identify the true cause of that one more time. This is a brutal incident which might have changed the entire landscape of the championship. And with something like this happening now at the halfway point, you can see number 8, number 08, Wetmore and Thunhorst alike. Unbelievable if this is going to happen here. We take it back. The number 8 and the 08, Wetmore and Thunhorst. Completely different circumstances. Wetmore not racing for a championship. And it looks like two drivers looking for one spot. And that is the difference. Huge contact. Don't quite know whether or not it's going to be a chance here for Thunhorst to come back. This is what we mean by it's a win or lose scenario if you're on that bubble. Huge implications. Reminder once again, if Matthew Thunhorst were to win, he would be locked in. However, Matthew only came in on a +3 interval, and now with drivers such as Chad Mikus, Michael Stroll, and Chuck Sweeting up there, Justin Morton as well, it's risky. And it looks like there's really no guarantee. Even Vinny Tigner now up there and taking some major points. And so Matthew Thunhorst might fall out, came in up 3, and might fall into the negatives at any place under. That's elimination. That is an out. And there's no recovery from that until 2025. So your 11th caution of the day going to fly rather quickly and come with huge implication. No choice right now but for Matthew Thunhorst to stick with it. And I'm sure right now, as disheartening as that incident was, well, he's got a chance to come back out there once again and hopefully give it a good chance to go out there for race victory. 4 tires and fuel, so he's going to come out and looks like some 4 or 5 laps down. Here comes the iRacing pace car going right by. Thunhorst still getting locked back in, and maybe a chance now to hope those cautions come to his advantage, because we've had so many so far. It would be a travesty for his sake if they weren't to come out so frequently once again. Although I'm sure now the field has had enough of these consistent cautions. I think it's about time we get some green flag racing in. 29 of Nick Tarbuck down low, and Michael Stroll again going to be leading the way. Green flags out, and Stroll will bring us through. Most of the entire pack comes together once again, and Matthew Thunhorst still remains on pit road. Vinny Tigner in the high spot. He's been all night long with significant contact. And now driver's going to have to swerve down to the bottom. And it looks like Tigner, as soon as we mention him getting up high into the positions, well, he's going to fall back into 11th. Suspension damage, and it is major. Take a look at that number 12 limping up on the high side of the circuit. And it really looks like now little else can be done. He's going to be crab walking it into pit road. And this might be the only saving grace for Matthew Thunhorse. Tigner, who was up there trying to make it from the bottom of the bubble up, has to come down to pit road, and that might be his championship season. And as soon as he had that opportunity to make it inside the podium, well, it looks like it flashed goodbye, and Vinny Tigner is going to call it a night. And it looks like for his championship race, he is going to call it a season. Number 12 falling out just like that, while the lead still is held by Michael Stroll. Nick Tarbuck B2, Jacob Fife in 3rd, Blake Gordon 4th, and Thomas Bressi in 5th, with Braxton Louise P6, Chad Mikas 7th, Don Stevenson 8th, and then DJ Stagger in 9th. Halfway through this event and then some, we'd like to thank iRacing Motorsport Simulations for making all of tonight's racing possible. Frontier of sim racing has been conquered by iRacing.com, the pioneer for sim racing online since 2008. With more than 16 years of experience, iRacing is as reliable as they come. Visit iRacing.com for some discounts to end the summer season. And though you might be thinking it just ended, well, it's about time right now to figure out what you can do for what's next. Fall coming up, the end of the motorsport seasons, well, it means it's time to enter your own career as a virtual driver. Welcome to iRacing. Welcome you live on FTN. First and foremost, we're going to take a brief promotional break, courtesy of our friends at iRacing.com, and hopefully we will hear from you after the following messages. Our friends at iRacing.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Jacob Fife, Michael Stroll up at the head of the field. Fife is a win-or-go-home driver today. Keep that in mind. A victory for him is necessary to go on and compete in the Ignite Series Championship and the round of 10 forthcoming. So he finds himself with the biggest deficit of all drivers, in which victory is compulsory. If he has anything else besides that top position as he's finishing tonight, well, it is over. Simply put, his championship relies on whether or not he can get around now Michael Stroll and whether or not he can stay ahead of Blake Gordon. Gordon, at long last, the driver who broke the winless streak this year and finally found the checkered flag. And I think that's the most important thing for Blake Gordon now, understanding he's got that win. And it looks like once again his short track prowess has come back into play and come back into the picture. He's a very successful short track racer, as we've seen many a time before. When it comes to the Ignite Series drivers, he put up the best fight in the 2023 All-Star race, a race that was eventually won by Seth Noel, but dominated by Blake until the latter 20 laps. And eventually, of course, coming away with one victory last season, Blake Gordon knows what it's about and has remained one of the most successful drivers in this series that has minimal wins to show for it. And I think that if you look at the numbers and look at how many races he's led multiple laps in, you would understand Blake Gordon is a force to be reckoned with, and now he's coming into his own. Blake Gordon here in third place, looking for what could be 2 consecutive victories. And many a time when it comes to playoff momentum, you see this burst out of a driver who gets that first win. And whether it is the playoffs or not, we've seen real-life examples all throughout stock car racing. You might remember in the first round of the playoffs at a short track in 2020, coming off of the heels of a Texas Motor Speedway winner, Richard Childress Racing and Austin Dillon. At that time, of course, Tyler Reddick alongside the team came into its own with multiple top 5 finishes in that opening round. Second place in Darlington, what ended up being a third place in Richmond. Sometimes just getting that first win, it's the first hurdle that needs to be climbed, and it looks like right now Jacob Fife has climbed all the hurdles. He finds himself the race leader. Fife up to the top of the board, and this is it, win or go home, and he's going to need a walk-off victory, which will be his second of the season, the most important for him now. It's necessary for Fife to get this one in the bag. Jacob Fife could have qualified based on his result without a race victory to get into the playoff picture. But tonight, it's become more evident now than ever that he is not a driver who will lock into the round of 10 without a victory. It is a win or go home circumstance, and unfortunately for Fife, who was not put in this scenario last year, well, right now he is going to have to fight out of it. That's sometimes what it comes down to. You can play a season well. Fife, at long last, able to get the chance at victory and finally achieved it. But even then, he finds himself in a situation that is certainly not preferable. And so now, to attack the rest of the field, success is the greatest form. Not necessarily of revenge, but instead, the greatest offensive tactic he has now is to win. His victory will be huge in the championship picture because he's coming all the way from the negatives to move all the way up into a locked-in spot. This is the checkered flag most necessary for any driver on the campaign, and Jacob Fife right now from the bottom seat of 15, well, he's going to move up to at least 14th based on Brad Patton not being here, but this is a win that will be unbelievable, of course, if he is able to get it done. 53 laps to go, and we based it off of the estimates from our first pit cycle that yes, Jacob Fife should be able to go all the way. The question is, of course, whether or not the tires seem to matter, and in all honesty, there is no concrete evidence that they really do. The drivers right now in the youngest tire are running, well, they're mostly one lap down. The only anomaly will be DJ Stagner. He's on a 26-lap-old Stead, and he finds himself right now in 10th. Admittedly, you can see how much damage he has, and he did have motor damage before and suspension damage, so maybe not the best example, but at the same time, Stagner's tires are not really carrying him all the way up. Then you got 80 laps of wear here from Michael Stroll. He's still in 3rd. However, he gave up the spot to Jacob Fife and subsequently Blake Gordon. Perhaps tires do matter in that case, and honestly, that would be the biggest indicator, if anything. Although Stroll that time by actually ran a lap that was quicker than the top 2 drivers, so really not too sure whether or not it's going to mean anything, because Michael Stroll right now, while fading back, doesn't seem to be particularly slow. It just comes down to the fact that the 2 drivers around him were able to just get by and pressure their way through, and that difference, it's clear up in front as Blake Gordon now tries to make that move and get up and ahead of the 36 of Jacob Fife. Something that has not been guaranteed yet. The 36 of Fife leading right now by give or take 1/3 of a second. The fluctuations have been minor, just a few hundredths of a second. Back and forth. Right now, it looks like it still is Fife's. Lapper going to come up for the first time tonight under green flag circumstances. That's going to be Kyle Cooper, and goes to show this second half has become the best of which for all drivers, and we expected an attitude switch to eventually come. It just took us a very long while to get there, and honestly, it's to the detriment of some great drivers like Matthew Thunhorst, who now his championship race is at the mercy of others around him. He's going to have to, of course, eventually get ahead of Vinny Signer, and it looks like he will, but also he's got other drivers he's got to focus on, such as maybe Kyle Cooper, another lapper, who looks like he just got significantly slower, and that's because he's up in the wall. Kyle Cooper up high with damage, and luckily did not get involved with anyone else, but Cooper almost getting up there with the leaders, and as such, number 73 machine Well, he's going to have that much more trouble to add to the fact his front end is almost entirely destroyed. Well, now the rest of that car really looks to be in terrible condition, and that's something you cannot buff out in 45 laps time. 136 out of 180 right now, making it lap 137 right up next. Jacob Fife has Blake Gordon behind, but Gordon's already got a victory. Don't expect him to play nice, though, because these victories for Gordon, they're never guarantees. It looks like tonight, once again, that right place and right time mentality as John Stevenson gets significantly slower on the lap. It looks like he's going to fade back and let Justin Morton go right by. Morton is a lapper, finding himself one down. Just looks like he's going to find himself another pass in the track that isn't anything when it comes to the numbers. Right now, Blake Gordon looking for 2 consecutive victories. Jacob Fife looking for his first win since Talladega. Blake Gordon looking for his first win since Talladega. Interestingly enough, the last 2 Talladega winners are running first and second here, and by recency order anyway, the most recent finds himself in the catbird seat. At long last, Jacob Fife up in front. At long last, Blake Gordon looking like a consistent threat for victory. So it's interesting now that at the crossroads of their seasons where Gordon has gotten that success to make it on to the next round and Fife needs a win, now they're here with each other, and they might be determining each other's fate. Michael Stroll has been able to keep Thomas Bresci at bay for the majority of this run, and it looks like despite some continued pressures, well, the number 24 has not been able to fully get around the driver on a 91-lap stint. Goes to show tires don't seem to be the be-all, end-all today. Important, yes, and there's definitely some significance in taking some Goodyear rubber that's brand new, but it looks like it hasn't been the most important thing with regards to strategy. Now, Cody Smith is not with us tonight, but I'd once again like to thank our friends at NextLevelRacing.com, providing high-quality sim racing performance products for, of course, all those on iRacing and other sim racing platforms who deserve nothing but the best. Visit NextLevelRacing.com for additional information and use promo code INTEGRITY for 10% off of checkout on all Next Level Racing products. We'll return after our first promotional message of the day, courtesy of our friends at NextLevelRacing.com. Final 32 laps here as Jacob Fife and company round these corners again and again. The paperclip has become more of that back and forth rotation of drivers, of course, as the night has gone on. But at long last, it looks like another driver besides Matthew Thunhorse finds himself up in front holding the throne. And that will be Jacob Fife, who leads the way here in what will be a do-or-die race for his campaign. A victory in this win-that-you're-in format means that, yes, he will be locked in if these results stand as is. Jacob looking for his second victory and his first in several months here. You'd have to turn back the clock basically a half year to really figure out when, of course, he last was able to get the job done. It was Talladega all the way back in April. And here and now, with the final few races coming up, a victory is critical. You cannot expect to make it into that round of 5 without a victory throughout the playoffs here. It just seems like that's going to be impossible based on the way the championship is played out. Every driver has been so competitive that a victory is really the only thing that separates you from your peers here. Even if you have consistently good runs, the win is everything, and it has remained everything for quite a while. I think it's even more important now when you understand fewer drivers, fewer races. It's not just a 30-race championship we've been watching, but now we have ourselves only 5 races in consideration, including this one, to get the job done. Gap from first to second, it's 1.5. Thomas Bressi has been able to make it by Blake Gordon for that second spot, and it looks like Blake now going to drop back a little further. Perhaps not a chance to go for a back-to-back win, but back-to-back podium still looks to be plausible, as Thomas Bressi has been able to compete and defend that number 24 from what overall looked to be a disappointing qualifying session up into a very strong race. Top 5 pace for the second half of which, and now from 13th up to second, it's evident that Thomas Bressi is the biggest mover on the day, has been able to make up a total now of 11 positions, and a fantastic race it has been for a driver who really didn't need a fantastic race, and yet will get one. All the more important for him, of course, to just hang on here, take the points day as it is. Justin Morton going to be here with Matthew Thunhorst and Rob Ackley there too. Lappers of all ranges from 1 lap down to 30 laps down remain on track. 20 drivers took to the green flag tonight, and 15 of which are still with us. 10, though, are on the lead lap, last of which is DJ Stagner, and that might change now. Kyle Cooper put down another lap, and Jacob Fife might be coming up now on that number 64. Jacob has been on a tear in this final run, and going down to pit road, 81 laps to go was about the best thing he could do. Expecting that second half conversion, shall we say, where a much cleaner race comes out of it. Jacob got the track position, built up the spots, and saw all the chaos for the final time crumble among the drivers, such as Matthew Thunhorst here. 23 laps remaining, so this time by, we're going to crank it up with iRacing's best camera providers, TrackCams22.com. Visit TrackCams22.com for more information about iRacing's leading camera software. The best broadcasters choose the best cameras. TrackCams for Gourmets is the place to go. Be right back after the following message from our friends at TrackCams22.com.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series in officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
This message is brought to you by the rebrand of Throttle Graphics and Designs. This publication may not be reposted without the authorized written consent of Throttle Graphics and Designs. NASCAR Camping World Ford F-150. NASCAR Xfinity Ford Mustang. NASCAR Cup Series Next-Gen Ford Mustang. Arca Menards. This has been the publication of the redesign and rebranding of Throttle Graphics and Designs. This message may not be reposted, republicated, or rebroadcasted without the authorized written consent of Throttle Graphics and Designs. Thank you, and thanks for your time.
Boundless makes its presence felt. It will not be ignored. We're helping turn ideas into reality with a wealth of building products that take every architectural style to the next level. This is what it's like to imagine, build, and transform anything we want into.
And so now the dying laps of this event, well, they've gone pretty swimmingly so far. Ever since lap 100, we've seen for the large part green flag racing, and it's been one man at the front of the field dominating this one, while the 24 of course, Thomas Bressi continues to chase. It all comes down to whether or not Jacob Fife will hang on for what is now a 10-lap-to-go feature. Welcome back live on FTN, the Pro Powder and Paint 150. We've gotten loud, and of course, we've been live from the jump. Now Jacob Fife only has himself some 10 laps to go on what has been a 90-lap stint. He has to go about 105 laps overall on this set of tire, which is not going to be easy by any means, but it looks like he's been able to work the fuel numbers out, work the tire numbers out all the same, and so we're at this point where it doesn't look like it's going to matter all too much whether or not Jacob Fife is going to have to worry about what else is there. Looks like right now, whatever's left in the tank is good enough, and the tires, well, they've gotten him up to a 1.3 second lead, and that is nothing, of course, to scoff at here. I think Jacob is in comfortable standing as Tom Wetmore dives low, goes right back up high. He'll give Jacob Fife the perfect way through, and so 7 laps remain. This is a victory which will be unprecedented when it comes to the championship picture. Keep in mind, the championship standings show Jacob Fife is coming in as the last seed, in which a victory is everything. Vinny Tigner out of this race. Justin Morton, a lapper. Chuck Sweeting out of this race. Chad Mikas is in third. He's going to be able to make it on that if he, of course, just hangs on. Michael Stroll is still with us. He's in fourth. Brad Patton is out of this race and the rest of the championship. Don Stevenson is inside the 8th spot. Matthew Thunhorse is in 15th. And then from there, you got drivers who are relatively safe, save for maybe DJ Stagner, who's had a topsy-turvy day, not filled with any success, to say the least. So we're going to see Fife and Mikas benefit the most, because Chad Mikas is now up there in third, has gotten by the likes of which, including his own teammate and Michael Stroll, and it looks like despite the fact Chad missed Darlington in its entirety, what we saw from Talladega was just enough. Admittedly, the last front straightaway was certainly a risk for this number 25 team, but it looks like whatever the case, they were able to hang on, take that top 10 finish, and keep on moving. And that's exactly the sort of mentality you need if you want any chance at making it, missing a race, which is not going to be possible in the next round, that's for certain. Mikas might be able to get that saving grace this time, but of course, it's all preparation for what's up next. Thomas Bressi's very comfortable up there in second, and it looks like now with 2 laps to go, Jacob Fife is a mile away from a miracle victory. He's got to hang on 8 turns and 4 sets now. In the Pro Powder and Paint 150, the Triple P Chevrolet has come alive. By no means the favorite to win this race, and definitely not the favorite to win the championship. This is a pivotal night for the 36 team. Started in 11th, needed to make it up to the top spot and hold it to have any chance to move on to the round of 10. And now coming through those last two turns, well, we know for certain where Jacob Fife will be next week. He'll be fighting for a championship in the round of 10. Winner go home. Jacob Fife wins from the Martinsville Speedway, and just behind him it's Thomas Bresci in second. Micus takes a just as necessary top 3. Two major upsets to move from the red to the green. Final points calculations coming very soon as Jacob Fife will begin celebration of his second career Ignite Series win. Strategy is the difference maker tonight here for Jacob Fife, a race winner from the virtual Martinsville Speedway, and it looks like now taking that checkered flag, and one well-deserved as Fife is now going to go through and take one last ride around the circuit before heading to pit road. And so Jacob Fife tonight, well, let's talk about his victory. Well, winning by 1.2 seconds relative to the rest of the field. Checkered flag is his once again tonight, and let's take a look at those overall race results that come with. Fife is going to win from Thomas Bresci in second and Chad Micus in third. Fourth place is going to be Michael Stroll and Braxton Lewis. Then and there is P5. P6 is Nick Tarbuck, and seventh place will be Blake Gordon, with 8th Don Stevenson, 9th Brandon Bernhardt, and DJ Stagner, position number 10. 11th place is going to be Rob Ackley, and 12th is then and there in Justin Morton. Finding himself in 13th is Tom Wetmore, and it'll be 14th Kyle Cooper. 15th place is going to be then and there Vinny Tigner, Matthew Thunhorst. And it looks like from there, retirees, Alan Rawell, Daniel Foss, Chuck Sweeting, and Cal Filarski, the 20 drivers in the field tonight, making up your starting grid and making up your finishing results. Jacob Fife, the man to beat, gets the job done, wins here in Martinsville, his second victory of the season, and the most necessary win since Blake Gordon just a week ago. And interestingly enough, both drivers came from outside of the pre-existing bracket to be good for top 10 and made their way up. It was basically a victory or go home for Blake Gordon, and tonight he did not win. He won at Talladega. So Jacob Fife was, of course, given the opportunity for his winner go home circumstance, one, of course, where he came through on top. And the number 36 is a winner yet again. Getting into the broadcast booth right now, your top 3 finishers. Let's get a word from each one of which and talk to your podium sitters after a hectic night in Martinsville. For Jacob Fife, coming in 23 points under, the only chance for the continuation of your championship run was a win. And you won tonight. What a way to, of course, stun the competition and defy the odds. Victory here in Martinsville from 11th on the grid, Jacob. What do you feel now?
Man, that was pretty awesome. Definitely not expecting that. A little under the weather. Trying to, it's such a hard field to get through. Trying to figure out strategy and stuff like that. And then, once you get to the point where it's time to go, you got to go. I was really surprised that I was able to get back up to the front, get around Stroll there, and then kind of take off a little bit. I knew I was probably trading laps with Bresci at the end there, and I thought he was gaining a little bit, but I just turned everything off and just focused on driving. And before I knew it, Boomer told me it was 5 to go, and I'm like, oh, okay. But no, I'm super pumped, man. That's pretty much what you said leading into that is we had to win, period. Happy to do it here in Virginia, which is where I was born and raised here in Virginia. Pretty much, other than Richmond, pretty much a home track for me. Do it with Pro Powder and Paint on the car, who's also from Virginia. It's pretty cool. So really excited about tonight, being able to move on. Kind of a full circle moment a little bit. Ross Cato won last year in the next gen car to knock me out of the playoffs here at Martinsville. So it's kind of nice to kind of flip the script and be able to win to get into the playoffs, or the next round, that is, here at Martinsville. So I'm pretty pumped. This is one of the I don't get too excited much anymore, but I'm pretty excited about this.
And a huge win it is, of course, to keep the championship race alive. First and foremost, you weren't up there leading for the first 100 or so laps, but you were planting that strategy, which ended up being the most successful on the day. Pit road, you went to pretty early compared to what we expected, but those cautions made such a difference. So, what about the early racing and the strategy there influence your decisions?
Yeah, I mean, once we started having a lot of cautions, it was kind of hard to kind of make a choice of when to pit. I knew there was a group that pitted probably around 40 or 50 pretty early. I thought that was too early to pit, but track position was also really important. So I kind of decided in the middle of that rash of cautions that we had there that of the guys that were still out, I needed to go ahead and pit and get it out of the way to get ahead of them. Because I think I pitted around lap 80 or so, right before the halfway point. So I figured if any caution that came out after the halfway point, they were going to pit. So I went ahead and did that a little earlier. Points wasn't going to do me any good, so it was about winning and getting back up to the top there. So um, yeah, so I mean that's kind of the thought process there. And luckily, I guess I was right. Most everybody came in there right after the stage, put me up to third, and then it's just, I mean, Stroll and Tarabuck are super competitive, super fast and hard to race with in a good way. Um, so I didn't think it was going to be easy street by any means. But definitely, luckily, we had a green flag run right after that. So so I could, try to work past them and just set a good rhythm to be able to stay ahead of the rest of the guys there.
Well, it looks like just enough to stay ahead. And up next to open up the round of 10, we got ourselves some short track racing again. Iowa Speedway, very similar to that of Richmond, just a few dozen miles away from down here in the paperclip. How do you feel about continuing your championship chase now that you know you're locked in?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just going to get increasingly harder, right? I really, I missed the first race of this round due to iRacing updates and stuff. So I was bummed about that because I thought I could make it to the next round, if I was able to do all the races or whatnot. Um, but I mean, this is where it gets really interesting. I think you really have um, to think about optimizing points. I do like the shorter tracks. I think they kind of fit me better. So I am looking forward to going to an Iowa. Phoenix, I think, is somewhere in there later in the playoffs. So places like that, I think I'll be pretty decent at. And then it's just, it really is at this point, optimizing points, minimizing mistakes, and just trying to get yourself in a good position to point your way to the next round. It's really hard to win here, and everybody's super tight as far as the point standings is concerned. From round to round. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of work. So we, super excited about tonight with getting the win, but definitely going to have to turn the page pretty quick here later this week and move on to Iowa and see how we can do there.
Focuses, of course, on what's up next. Jacob Fife, victory here in Martinsville, though, to propel you to the second round of the championship. Any last messages or final shout outs you'd like to give?
Well, yeah, like I mentioned before, home track, home race type of deal. So glad to do this in Virginia. Glad to do this for my sponsor, Pro Powder and Paint, who's been a sponsor of our series and league gear for many years now. So glad to do it there. As always, I want to thank all the members for coming out each week and supporting the league, and what we try to do here. So thank you to them, and thank you to the admins for putting on the racing each week. Um, so we can do this. Like I said, it's fun to do this. We're on year 13 now, which is kind of leave in some ways. But we got a lot of cool stuff happening, so it's fun to do and keep carrying on. And as always, appreciate David you doing this for us and broadcasting these races so we can go back and watch. So I'm gonna do a little bit of that tonight.
Well, Jacob Fife collecting the checkered flag tonight. Victory for the second time this season and first of the playoffs. Thank you again for your time.
Yeah, thanks, man. Have a good night.
And Jacob on the way. Thomas pressing on the driver who came deep from the bottom depths of the starting grid and what ended up being the worst starting position out of the JTM3 to the best finishing position of all those on the team. Thomas Bressy, talk about a turnaround day. Second place here at long last.
Yeah, disappointed though. I was really trying to get the win there. It would have helped me for the next round and would have probably helped um, Matt and Justin out because obviously Fife was below them in the points going into the round, and him winning doesn't help them after the pretty ridiculous shenanigans that happened to them. So that's disappointing. I'm pretty sure Justin's out. I think we all probably have come to that consensus. We don't really know about Matt yet. I think that's going to be very close. I don't know if he made it or not, but we'll see. But unfortunately, I can say that I've been there. I was there last year. It sucks. But yeah, I knew had enough pace. I probably could have won the race. I was just too patient with people that probably didn't deserve it coming back through there, and should have just chrome horned a few people and gave up too much time being nice and didn't have enough tire left to run Fife back down there at the end. So good job on him getting through the traffic, I guess, or wherever he restarted. I don't even remember, but shame I wasn't able to close the gap down and try to get the win away at the end.
And you mentioned that final chase to get back up to Jacob there. The big difference between you two when it came down to the numbers looked to be tires. And tires tonight, we weren't quite sure if they made really much a difference. How was it for you inside the cockpit?
Yeah, I mean it was hard to tell at the first half because we stop start 15,000 times, but it helped us at least get to halfway. So we got some halfway points from it before we stopped, and then yeah, I was hoping maybe pitting when we did that maybe that back half of the race would be a bit more green, which it kind of was, and maybe a bigger tire offset for me or us compared to some of the guys around us would pay dividends. But I think it kind of worked, but it also kind of didn't. I mean, all three of us were fast. We were just trying to, we figured there was going to be some carnage and stuff, so that's why we just stayed out to halfway and get some points that way. At least if something happened, we had something to fall back on a little bit, which unfortunately they needed. But yeah, it was tricky. I mean, it was harder to pass. It was weird too because I thought there were times where the bottom was where you wanted to be and had to be, and then that last run, I think it was Terrebrook that I got to the outside of and passed him on the outside. I was like, "How?" I didn't think that was going to work, but okay, I'll take it. Um, and yeah, just trying to work the lanes and stuff, and just use what advantage you can. But I mean, it was hard. I don't know. I mean, the clean air still mattered. I mean, I even saw that in practice when I was running around Justin a bit. Like I was way faster than him, caught him, couldn't pass him for a while, and then kind of nudged him out of the way and passed him, and then took off again. So it was weird for a short track race. But yeah, the tires were interesting for sure. So um, it would have been nice. It would have been helpful if there was a bigger swing or difference in the tires, but unfortunately, there kind of wasn't there.
Well, all things considered, looks like you are locked into that round of 10, which is coming up with another short track in Iowa. Making it in, it looks like having at least enough of a buffer to not be immediately concerned. What's up next on the table for you with Iowa next on the schedule?
Probably survive. Not a huge fan of Iowa, I'll be honest. Everyone loves it. I hate it. I'd be fine if they bulldozed it, to be honest. But um, I I've been. I mean, I've done okay there before. Like there's sometimes I'll be there and just kind of have a flash in the pan and have a really good run, and um, you know, we'll see how next week goes. Obviously, I hope it goes well. I'd rather not have the start of the next round go like the start of this one did, where I make a mistake and then get wrecked again. So, just try to survive next week. I think that's probably a good goal for the for the first race of the second round.
course, goal of now making it even further. Round of 5, I'm sure you got your sights set on, but making it into that round of 10 rather quick. Now, second, of course, here from Martinsville, checkered flag before we move on to round 2. Any final thoughts or shout-outs you'd like to give?
Yeah, just shout out to the JT Motorsports guys. And it looks like fortunately Matt did make it. They just finished posting the points, so thank God something at least kind of went right. So happy for him. Hate Justin got knocked out. He was running great tonight. Honestly, I mean, struggled in practice and did an awesome job the first half of that race. So really proud of him. But yeah, just thanks to the admins for what they do, putting the series on, all the sponsors that we have that support the series, and you for doing the broadcast, obviously, and making us look good. And hopefully everybody that tuned in tonight enjoyed the race.
Just like that, Thomas Bressi coming away here, runner-up from the Pro Powder and Paint 150. Thank you again for your time.
Take care.
And championship standings have updated, and so the final drivers to make it in on the standings tonight, well, it looks like Don Stevenson is going to be one of which who did make it in. The last driver in, then Michael Stroll, then Matthew Thunhorst, and it looks like, despite coming home in third tonight for Domination Intimidation Racing, Chad Mikas will not make it in to the round of 10. Nevertheless, we'll hear from the 25 right now, who comes away with that final podium spot.
Hey, David, how's it going, man?
Well, it looks like putting it together as a strong race, and we just got the final word about the championship here just behind on making it in through the transfer tonight, and it looks like a podium not going to be satisfactory for that. Nevertheless, still a very strong run.
Yeah, good run tonight. Would have liked to see a few less cautions. I don't know if I had anything for Jacob or Bresci there at the end, but I kind of burned my stuff up trying to get around some of the guys with older tires, so that was kind of a bummer. Obviously missing the Darlington race didn't help my case for the playoffs at all either, but with the season I had, I'm pretty damn happy about that. We had a barn burner of a win at Kern County, lots of top 5s, lots of top 10s, so it's a shame we only missed it by 3 points, but when you miss a race that opens the playoffs, it's bound to happen. I kind of expected it, but those short margins of losing there definitely bite. So, but it's been fun.
And you mentioned that margin there tonight. Martinsville expecting to get a big race out of it, and we noticed on the podium tonight, all starting outside of the top 10, 11, 12, 13th, finishing all throughout the podium, and you found yourself in 12th. So back of the field to start, and even found yourself in an instant where you were turned around in full. So what was it like recovering to still make it up with track position?
I was kind of just pissed off, to be honest with you. I was just running a little red there, so I kind of muted my mic in our team chat and just tried to get to work. Seasons previously, I probably would have just internally imploded and would have made bad night even worse. But just buckled down and tried to get everything I could out of it. So happy with the podium for sure.
And certainly getting the most out of it to make it up inside the top 3. Now, we still have a few races left in the championship. You think you'll be pursuing perhaps a victory or 2 more to end the campaign?
I'd like to, for sure. I think Vegas and New Hampshire are probably my best 2 bets. Iowa's not really one of my favorite tracks, and Homestead I'm very hit or miss at, but we'll see what happens. Actually, I'm missing New Hampshire. I'm going to be out of town, so at some point in the playoffs, I was going to be out, but we're going to just try to be as consistent as we can here next couple of weeks and just add to our stats for the season. So.
And consistency will be key from here. Chad Mikas, number 25 team now. Maybe a chance to chase after 1 or 2 more wins after a podium here in Martinsville. Any last messages you'd like to give out?
David, appreciate you for putting up these awesome broadcasts every week. It's lots of fun to go back and watch. Everybody at Integrity, Next Level Racing, love my rig. Go check them out. My teammates at DIR, Do the Move podcast, Big Evil Designs. Check out IMB Store for some awesome sim gear as well. I've been repping their gloves for the past 3 years or so now. My second pair, love them. And I actually just got a new set of pedals. I'm on the Husenvelds. I got the Ultimate Pluses, so I got to break those in tonight. So that was fun. So definitely recommend those. So appreciate everybody for watching.
Position number 3 tonight, Chad Mikas coming home at the end of Martinsville Speedway with the podium. Thank you again for your time.
Thanks, buddy. Have a good night.
And for Chad Mikas, oh so close, the gap again, 3 points between Mikas and Don Stevenson, missing a race, making the difference, unfortunately, for many a driver, and so officially, Chad Mikas will not make it into the round of 10. However, of course, we still have 10 drivers left in championship contention from this point onward. Next week, we find out who those 10 are, and we find out where they'll be racing. Well, we know one thing for certain, they'll be racing at the Iowa Speedway, and we hope you join us there with them once again. Tonight from the virtual Martinsville Speedway, you've been watching the Pro Powder and Paint 150, won by Jacob Fife, race 26 of the 2024 campaign, and I've been your host, David Kreutz, commentating and producing all of tonight's action. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like on the stream and subscribe to the channel. Your support is always greatly appreciated. We'd love to see you back, whether it's from the virtual Martinsville Superspeedway. Well, it's a super speedway when it comes to magnitude, not necessarily in its size. We'll be back here eventually, and we'll be back here sooner than you know. The Octane series as well is going to have a very familiar playoff loadout, and we go live tomorrow with them and the Charlotte Roval. So stay tuned for more Integrity Championship racing. If you'd like to join the FTN community, scan the QR code on your screen right now and join the FTN Broadcasting Discord server to find out more information on a day-to-day basis from Monday to Sunday and every day in between. FTN Broadcasting has you covered with exciting motorsport content all throughout the year. Thank you again for tuning in to tonight's coverage here live on FTN. We hope you have a fantastic night.